Mm, okay. 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 Assalamualaikum and good morning and good afternoon to everyone who joined our webinar session. If there is any technical issue or sound problem, you can't hear my voice, please let me know in the comment section. I am Aidil Haris bin Ahmad Nizam, a representative from Abnormal Psychology class. I'm from ADP American Degree Program, majoring in communication and minor in psychology. I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Before we going any further, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to Miss Devi Vinashine Murugas for joining us as a special guest for our webinar. Miss Devi, Miss Devi is a registered counselor from the Board of Counselor Malaysia. Adding to that, Miss Devi is also a founder of operating director of the Soul Mechanic. In this webinar, the topic will be phobia. Is it just all in my head? This will be more of an informative sharing session that will able to spread awareness about phobia. Before we go any further, if you guys view have any question, please note it down in the comment section, and we will try to pick it up during the Q&A session. Okay, Miss Devi, do you have anything to say to the viewer before we head to the whole webinar?
Right. Hello, everyone. I hope all of y'all are having a fabulous afternoon over there. It's the very first day of the week, and some of y'all might be experiencing Monday blues, or I'm at work. Most of us are getting back to work. Things are getting normal, and that's a great thing. And thank you, Idil. Thank you, Segi College, for giving me this fabulous opportunity to talk about phobia. So I think we can kickstart at the moment. We can kickstart right now.
Wait, we are sharing the screen right now. Okay. We'll start with the introduction to phobia by Miss Devi.
Right. Phobias is something that, most of the time it's people tend to use this in a very common manner. And I wonder, do all of us actually know what phobia means? Phobia, as the definition says, is a persistent, excessive, unrealistic fear of an object, person, animal, activity, or situation. It's a type of anxiety disorder. It can be triggered by an object or, the stimulus that I've mentioned above. It could be an object, person, animal, activity, or so on. Next slide, please. Okay, the general symptoms, as you may see, it overlaps with the symptoms of anxiety. Feelings of lightheaded, pounding heart, chest pain, sweating, shortness of breath, nauseous, and so on. These are commonly known symptoms where most of us are quite aware, okay, these are symptoms of anxiety. However, the psychological symptoms are things that people don't really speak about, which is fear of losing control. Sometimes people with anxiety, they tend to strive to stay in control. So that fear creates excessive, fear of losing control itself can create excessive amount of anxiety. Some may experience feeling of detached, panic attack, which also I've noticed that this is something that's getting a bit more common these days, which most of the time when someone experiences panic attack, people mistaken that as heart attack in most situations. People feel like because the symptoms somehow resembles heart attack. So sometimes I've had clients who literally reach out to a doctor first and screen out all the physical condition before they come and see a psychologist. And avoidance of object or situation is another psychological symptom. I'll elaborate on this as we go on further in slides. Next slide, please. Okay, the causes: negative experiences, incidents or traumas, genetics, environment, intense reactions to situation, brain function, long-term stress. Let's talk about negative experiences. It's things like, again, this may not be relevant to the most of us, but some of us. For example, imagine a child being bitten by a dog. What happened is, the first time the child is being bitten by a dog, sometimes some children will get over it, or most cases children get over it. Okay, yeah, I was bitten by a dog, but that was a German shepherd and this is a pet dog, so I'm okay. Some people, they generalize the fear. So what happens is, the next time when they see that stimulus, a dog, they sort of generalize it. They anticipate that the dog is going to bite me. So now that becomes a generalized disorder, which can take to phobia towards dog in some cases. So, generally, phobia involves some kind of exposure beforehand, and in most cases, the exposure is traumatic. It creates excessive fear. Due to the extensive fear, now people generalize it and they start avoiding that specific object or that specific situation. And that is known as phobia. And yes, as you can see, it is a learned behavior. So every learned behavior has can be unlearned. If you go in for therapy, you will learn how to unlearn the behavior. And there are intense emotions attached to these situations. It could be like embarrassment, fear, a sense of loss of control. And because of these strong emotions, you feel like you don't want to do that again. Okay, long term stress, so it is one of the way you attempt to cope by completely avoiding. Right, next slide please. Okay, prevalence: 12.5 percentage of you in US adults have had specific phobia. It is higher among females compared to males. 19.77% of children and adolescents suffer from phobia. Okay, commonly known phobia, social phobia is, I feel that in my, as far as I'm concerned, I've seen this more common. People find it very difficult to socialize. And this has become more common these days, especially after this pandemic started, due to the fact that, during the pandemic, most of us stayed away. Like we stayed away from social media. Sorry, we stayed away from meeting people. So a lot of our means of communication has always been online. So it's either WhatsApp chat, group chat, video chat. And because of that, we, as things are, starting to get back normal, some of us, we have already gone back to work. So we are like, how am I going to talk with my colleague? I feel like all this while we have been connecting via online, and suddenly I have to restart face to face interaction. This is something that is common now. Besides that, social phobia can also be seen as, due to childhood or due to the way a person grew up. They have intense fear when it comes to meeting people, when it comes to talking to people. They can be an expert in the topic, but when they meet strangers, they struggle to speak. Does any of this phobia resonate to you, Ideal? You felt like you have had friends with similar phobia, or someone like that?
Yes, I have friend that is have a similar phobia,
Hmm.
but they mm, it's easy to say that we are not much contact anymore. Nah.
What phobia was that?
Social means social phobia.
Social.
Yeah,
Right, right. You feel that your friend had social phobia.
yeah. They tend to stay
Right.
away as time passes. When we grew up from school after school,
Hmm.
now we didn't contact anymore. So I
Right.
guess, yep, it's
It's
quite
it's
common.
actually, I mean, it's very sweet of you. I would rather say maybe it's the psychology that you can actually understand that, hey, maybe perhaps the person suffers from social phobia,
Yeah.
rather than personalizing, because I've seen this in sessions where sometimes clients with social phobia, right, one of their biggest fear, like they don't want to attend social event, and they start losing their people within the circle. And for them
Mm.
it's like, but my friend don't understand, it's not them, it's I have difficulty to go and hang out and meet people. I'm okay if my friend is around me, but one to one is okay, but meeting new people can be a very nerve wracking situation for me. but my friend personalize it. So these are common things. Like it's an actual struggle for them, but when an outsider see, they can't see it that way.
Yes.
I'm glad that you were able to see it. Oh, maybe my friend suffers from social phobia.
Yep.
All right. Next slide, please.
Okay, continuing.
Yeah.
Introduction to anxiety.
Yes. Okay. Before I talk about anxiety, what do you think, Aida? What do you think about anxiety?
Mm, Sweating. When it comes to anxiety, the first thing that I know is sweating hard and nervous.
Sweating and
Yes.
nervous.
Yep.
Okay. Have you encountered the moment before?
Just now.
Are you still feeling it that way now?
Yes. But uh, I'm okay. I've often encountered with anxiety, so I can cope with it.
Right, right. Okay. Before we go in further, right, can I just ask you to maybe list out a few things that you can see right now in front of in your room? I'm guessing that's your room.
I have water,
Okay, what else?
uh, pencil, and paper to list down everything that you said.
Right. Okay.
Apart from it, a fan behind me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
That's
all.
like five things. Okay.
Yep.
Four things that you could touch and feel in your room
For
within your, yeah, within your proximity.
mm, four things. Definitely pencil and paper. For keyboard and mouse, there's four
Okay.
things. Pencil,
Right.
paper, keyboard, and mouse. Yep.
Right. Okay. Now, three things that you can hear in your room.
My PC fan.
Mhm.
My fan behind me,
Right.
and some outside noises. Yep.
Okay.
That's
Inside the room.
yeah.
Besides my voice, inside your room.
I think that's the only fan and my PC, my personal computer fans. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, maybe two smell that you can possibly smell in the room,
That is quite personal, I suppose. Maggie
or maybe two smell that you like.
smell.
Maggie.
Uh, have this what they call it, fresh care or ointment
Okay.
ailment oil
Mhm.
because I'm nervous. So I guess I'm using this. Mostly I smell right now. I'm using.
Right. Can you smell it now? Can you try smelling
Yes,
it now?
yes.
Okay,
I'm
you can smell it.
putting it.
Right. All
Yep.
right. Okay. Any other smell?
Mm, no, just that.
Okay. All right. One thing that you would like to taste, or one taste that you actually like.
One taste. I suppose a glass of nicely cold water.
You have
That would
that as
be.
well.
But this is warm.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel as you talk about all these things now? Things that you
If
can see, you can hear, you can smell.
I feel okay if not nervous.
Mhm.
Mm, Still nervous, but it's quite uh on the stable side, if I were to say. So I'm
Right.
yeah. You can hear my voice shivering. So yes,
Right, right. Okay, what I was doing actually, I was grounding your senses, but of course, I went in a bit far. I went in a bit fast because, we are actually having a YouTube version. They call this grounding. So,
grounding.
whenever people get very anxious, like right now, if I were to see you before, I would have ground you first. Stabilize, you know, calm down, get a state of mind where you feel very okay, Like you feel, you are a bit more detached from your anxiety.
Mm.
Because what most of the time what causes, and anxiety is a normal emotion. We all have anxiety, especially in situations like new situation, when we are meeting new people, when we are going somewhere new, to a new place, when we are having an exam. It is appropriate response that we face. Everyone has anxiety. Like right now, if there is a snake, or what animals look scary, maybe not lion, okay, a snake, let's say it comes in my room. If I'm not getting anxious, probably I'm going to go 6 feet ground under the ground. If I don't get anxious, in the next moment you'll see me there only. Because anxiety is actually a survival emotion. So whatever we face now, it's very normal. It's giving us a situation to either fight or flight. Like right now, you feeling that because you feel like, okay, there is YouTube in front, there are many people. So the anxiety is coming from either past experiences, or you have a future expectation. What people are going to tell? How is it going to go? So in the moment, you struggle to be in the moment. So that is one of the main reason why people, have very bad manifestation of symptoms.
Yes.
Okay, you're doing fine. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I said, normal anxiety versus anxiety disorder. Normal anxiety is a state where every one of us experiences, especially like, Ideal, you were telling me that you feel a bit nervous, anxious, like right now, because this is your first time seeing me. And sometimes, like, I also had it when I first came in, I was like, okay, how is this going to go? How am I going to, who am I going to see? Are we going to have an interaction with people? So the first time we go in, it is normal to have some manifestation of symptom. It is a disorder. It's a disorder when you think like, okay, it is so bad. I think I better not go. Maybe 10 minutes before an interview or an exam, you feel like, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do this. I cannot do this. So there's excessive emotional reaction, and that is an anxiety disorder. You understand, you can see that intensity is out of proportion and it is ongoing. So that's when you know that you have anxiety disorder and you need to seek help. Next slide, please. Okay, anxiety disorder is more than a temporary worry or fear. It can interfere with daily activities. The symptoms are uncontrollable worry, digestion problem, concentration problem, increased heart rate, irritability. So, like I mentioned, most of the time, people with anxiety, from my experience, I've seen them struggling to be in the present moment. Like I'm here, I'm talking to them, and most people with anxiety tend to have a very their mind tend to be very foggy, their thoughts are very cloudy. So it's very difficult, like they are here, they're trying to listen to you, but at that moment they find it very difficult to understand what you're saying, because
Yes.
in their mind is actually working. The mind is thinking about the past, what experience they had there, or it is thinking about the future. Oh my god, what's going to happen? Is the person while talking, is the person thinking, is the person judging me, does the person feel like I cannot resonate to them? All these thoughts are already playing in your mind, or you're thinking about something that happened in the past. So in the moment when you're talking or when you're doing something, you find it very difficult to concentrate. Do you have any questions, or you have like, okay, this is something that I felt before?
Okay. You guys on the viewer side, do you have any question? You can leave uh at the comment below. So we will pick it up during the Q&A session later.
Yes, because I
So I
am not
guess,
able to see the comments here.
yeah. So I guess we can continue with our slide, I suppose. Okay. Example of phobia.
Next slide, please.
Uh,
Okay, have you heard of this phobia before?
Me
I do.
personally, no. This is my first time hearing it. Compoundophobia. Yep.
Componophobia.
Yes.
Honestly, I struggle to pronounce most of the phobias names. It's,
Com-
even this phobia, I was like, when I try to listen, they have many different pronunciations. Some pronounce it as campanophobia, some say it as componophobia. So I'm like, okay, which one? It's most commonly known as button phobia, but it's a very rare type of phobia. Usually there's only about 4% of people with this phobia. From the
mm,
name, Adil, do you have any suggestion? Okay, what phobia this would probably be?
compound, it would be something like metals, like, you know, compact thingy stuff. It relate to stuff, but it's not button in
Mhm.
in a sense lah.
Right, right. But in general term, it means button phobia. So what do you think about it? When you hear someone saying button phobia, what comes to your mind?
They hate or they scared to wear a button clothes, like a
Yes,
t-shirt
yes,
with a button.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And why do you think Steve Jobs' name is there?
because he often wear a simple t-shirt when he's go
Huh?
out to an interview or uh his showcase of his uh I suppose item. It's not his product. Yes, he often wear a t-shirt.
Yes, he always wears
Rarely be
t-shirt
seen.
with no buttons.
Yes,
Yeah, if you see him
rarely be
outside.
seen lah. Rarely be seen with a
Yes,
t-shirt with a button.
yes. You rarely see him. It's turtleneck t-shirt most of the time with no buttons. You rarely see him with shirt. He did have button phobia, and guess what? That's how we have our smartphones.
Yes.
Yeah, because what happened is his fear of button phobia made him, move forward from touching phones. Have you seen a phone with all the buttons before? The one our atto and then our aunties or our fathers would have used. Even I have used it lah.
The old
Some of them have used it. Yes,
Nokia.
yes. I'm
Yes,
sure you would have seen it. Yes, the old Nokia phone with all the buttons, right? So
yes.
he transpired, his phobia made him come up with the idea of touchscreens because he didn't like touching buttons.
Mm,
Yes. So he was one of those that had this that had this phobia. So people with this phobia, they tend to avoid things with button. And within that, they have like hierarchy, like, which type of buttons I'm afraid of. It can be very specific. I've read a case study where I have personally not seen a client like that, but I've read case studies where, when a person has button phobia, some of them, it's not every button they are afraid of. Of course, they avoid the stimulus, but they have hierarchy in a sense of big buttons, colored button, transparent buttons, denim jeans button. Maybe I'm okay with that, but I don't like small colored buttons. So they have like differences. It's not every buttons generally. Okay. I'm seeing a question on how do we comfort people when they experience a panic attack from phobias? Okay, that's a very good question. Like I said, what I usually do is I do grounding. For instance, if you're getting a call from someone, oh yeah, okay, Desmond. Also the same question. How do we comfort people when they experience a panic attack from phobias? What I usually do is when, let's say, you getting a call or it's a friend next to you, what's important is you first stay calm. Try to get the person to see things first. Try to tell them, okay, come, what are you seeing right in front of you? Person with panic attack, most of the time they'll call and they'll say things like, I cannot breathe, and they're super panicking. And if you tell them things like, no, 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 you're okay, and you are panicking, they mirror your panic. Now, two people are panicking, you're not helping each other. You first stay calm. Using a calm voice, you ask them, remember five, four, three, two, one. Five things that they can see. They will insist, yeah, five, four, three, two, one. From five to one. Ask them five things they see in front of them. If they're on the road, they can see car, trees, sky, sun. If they are struggling to tell you, you try to imagine it with them. And then ask them four things that they can actually touch, if in their car Or if let's say they say, I don't know, I really don't know, you try telling them, remember, you like to touch things that are hard, you like to touch things that are soft. Do you have a stress ball with you? People with anxiety problem, I usually tell them to keep a stress ball. Ask them to touch, feel something. If they can't find four, tell them anything next to you. Ask them to, like, oh, how does this feel? And then ask them if they could hear anything. They will tell you things like car passing by, someone honking, or, someone screaming next to me, or there's a girl next to me, she's gossiping about a boyfriend. Yeah, great, you're doing fine. Then two things they can smell. Sometimes you are in a place you really can't smell. Then you ask them to tell them, remember, you like this smell. You like the smell of the perfume. Always make them imagine things. Remember when we went out, you said you like this perfume? I'm going to go get that. And then one thing, ask them they like to taste. What taste they like. It could be, if they can't, sometimes they struggle, you remind them. And if you are talking to them, and tell them one thing that you like about them. I've always adored your passion for dogs. That's very impressive. One. That's the last thing you tell them. And then see how they feel. Then talk to them. How are you doing now? By the time you finish this senses, because what you're doing here is, instead of telling them to calm down, don't get anxious, you're breathing, instead of telling them all this, you are distracting them by engaging the senses. So for most people, this can be very helpful. Was that too fast, Idil? Were you able to follow through?
I able to follow through. It was the same technique you used on me before, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, you're thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
yeah,
But with you,
I,
I went a bit faster because of, the presentation and all that. Usually got
yeah.
to go a bit slower.
I hope that's answer your question, Desmond. So let's continue with our slide.
Okay. Sebophobia, it's a fear of food, not the same as eating disorders, may be specific to one type of food or may include many food. Fear that food is spoiled, is undercooked, and dangerous, is not prepared by them. So these people can, maybe it was due to a very bad food poisoning, or, yeah, something they ate and caused them tremendous, intense experience that they developed a phobia from that. So they feel like, I'm going to avoid this now. Okay. Not the same as eating disorders. I'm not going to touch on eating disorders unless someone wants to know more about eating disorders. All
Okay,
right.
let's continue. Okay.
Yes. Next slide, please. Okay. Nomophobia. Okay. What do you think about this phobia?
Uh, no mobile phone phobia. Yes.
Does that
Uh,
resonate?
the feeling of fear not having a mobile phone in the pocket. I believe the is the nomophobia.
Yeah. I think I also have this. Most of us can relate to this. If I'm going out, before I check anything else, I'll always check, is my phone with me. And this is a very common phobia, fear of being detached from mobile phone connectivity. A lot of us even have this fear where we have to constantly check our phone. Even if there's nothing to do, we have to, like, scroll our Instagram or Facebook. And there's a new phobia, it's not here. It's phobia of being ticked, blue ticked, and not, the person not responding to us. Have you felt that? Like, you text someone and then the person doesn't respond to you. And then you'll be like, when would the person respond?
Yes,
Yeah, that
especially
is,
during group work group
really or
assignment.
not, only during group and
As a
work.
student lah, as a
As
student,
student.
they
Okay,
it is quite scary.
right. Yes. So when the person sees the message, we all have this phobia. I remember back then, before WhatsApp became blue ticked, right, where you were able to see whether the person has read the message. If my memory serves me right, it was no blue tick. It was just like two tick or one tick only. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was quite recent, few years ago, where they actually made the blue tick where people could see. Before that, you can't see. You don't know if the person has read your text message or not. And for most people, this new invention was a scary thing because now, like, oh God, I have to reply this person because the person would actually know if I've read it, but I did not reply. Do you remember that? Like before blue tick, there was no tick. There was no blue tick some time ago.
Not me, I think. Uh, I'm not
Familiar
into.
with that.
Yeah.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, I remember when I started using WhatsApp. Before there was blue tick, there was just like one or two tick. I cannot remember exactly, but the blue tick is a very new thing, not new thing lah. It's some time ago. Before that, you were not able to see whether the person has read or not. And when that was invented, a lot of people had fear. Oh God, now the person can actually know. And some of us, because of this fear, they choose to still remain it as white tick. So even if they have read or they have not read, you won't be able to know because their tick always remain white ticks, not blue. You can change settings like that. Okay, but this is a very common phobia. More than 50% of nomophobics never switch off their mobile phones. I don't remember when I ever switched off my mobile phone unless it gets switched off on its own. I never switch off my mobile phone. So I think I can also belong here. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay, commitment phobia. Okay, what do you think of this phobia? Is this something that you've heard before?
Mm, af- afraid of commitment. Generally in relationship, I think
Yes.
they doesn't want to have any relationship because they afraid of the commitment as a general. They don't want any commitment. They want to have fun as long as they can.
Yes, yes. I mean, this is a phobia. I have not conducted any research or studies, but this is something that I personally observe as a therapist in session. It's quite common, I would say. I've seen quite a number of people with this phobia. It's a type of phobia that involves fear towards commitment, fear towards attachment. So they fear this both, responsibility, and they fear having emotional attachment with people. So they try to stay away from relationships. And sometimes some people are aware that they have this phobia. They have this. Unfortunately, most people are not. So what happened is these are people who will go on several dates, who will really try every single thing, get you like them, and then once you start liking them, and then you will see they take a step back. The moment they start feeling like, the person, the girl or the boy is developing feelings for me, that's when they'll be like, okay, I need to run now. I can't take it. I have to stop and I have to run. And then suddenly you feel like if you are the other party who has developed feelings, you'll feel like the person is ghosting you, the person is detaching from you, the person is not as interested in you. Commitment phobia. Okay. And the causes can be childhood trauma. You can speak about attachment styles, things that have happened in the past, or sometimes even I've seen failed relationships in the past. And, the relationships were quite traumatizing or, very painful. And people don't really process emotions these days. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, especially as a man. I think me myself as a commitment phobia, but let's just keep it that only.
Okay, let's not go further there. But yeah, most men, they tend to, thank you very much for pointing that out. Men, I've seen them struggling to process their emotion. But I won't say only men, women do that too, nowadays, especially, where people see emotions as a weakness. They see things like, why should I be sad? I want to be happy all the time. Why should I grieve this breakup or this loss when I can see him being so happy? Why I cannot find a better person, is it? So people become like, why should I even process my emotion? And they start moving on. And you see, but when you move emotion, you don't move emotionally, you just move because you are distracting yourself from pain. You did not process your emotion. So what happened is your body remembers that pain. It's just that you never process. Your psyche remembers it. So when you're associating with a new person, the moment you feel like the person is giving you emotion, the moment you run out of thrill of chasing, you know the person is getting emotions for you, developing feelings for you, and you are resonating, you start getting fear. Now you feel like I need to end this and go. I'm not up for any commitment. And then you stop it there because you find it difficult to trust again because your trust was broken once. You find it hard to fall in love again. You find it hard to, put your guards down and just connect with people with love and trust. That's difficult. So, what people do is they don't process the emotions, they just drop, they keep running trying to feel like maybe this is not the person. And it'll go to person B. Maybe this is not the person. And you will notice that people with this, they tend to have a pattern. Which pattern is the moment they start having the other person start developing feelings, that's when they will feel this need to drop and move. It's very difficult for them to get committed. And if you try to understand why, it's because of this fear of facing that strong, intense emotions again.
Yes, I can agree with that. So let's continue with the treatment of phobias.
Right. Okay, so treatment of phobia, CBT is a commonly used method where they try to make you understand the connection between thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So, most of the time, they make you understand how you are thinking. By now, I'm sure you can see the connection, right, between anxiety and your thoughts. Most people with anxiety, they tend to have very strong thoughts. They think a lot in their mind, and because they are all the time in their mind, it's very difficult for them to be present in the moment. And because of that thoughts, the thoughts will not direct their behavior. Just a simple example. Okay, I'll put me in this picture. Like now, as I'm talking, right, I have very bad anxiety myself. I can easily categorize myself under many different forms of anxiety. I would say I have PhD in anxiety. Every time a client come in, I'll tell to my client, I understand how you feel because I feel that too. And I used to have very bad anxiety, even photo anxiety. Like I don't like people taking pictures of me. I have very bad anxiety towards maths. I have social anxiety. I don't dine in alone before most of the time. So I understand that it's because the way I think. Most of the time we have thoughts like, how is the person seeing me? Like now I'm talking to you, in my mind I'll be like, is Ideal, does Ideal find me weird? Is he judging me? Does he understand what I'm saying? Is he going like, yo, what is this woman talking non-stop? It's too much for me to process. People with
No,
anxiety,
miss.
did I read your mind? Did I read your mind? Adil goes like, yes, miss, I've been thinking
No.
all of this now. Yeah, but people with anxiety, they have all these thoughts. They have all these imaginary thoughts. And imagine right now, I'm thinking all this in my mind. What is Ideal thinking about me? What are the people thinking about me? What happens if this get posted? Oh, am I going to get a bad feedback? If I'm thinking like this, how do you think my behavior will be? With all these thoughts in my mind, how do you think my action will be? Do you think I can be confident?
No.
Yes, I definitely cannot be confident. I cannot even talk, um, in a comfortable pace. I cannot present what's in my mind, even though I may be an expert, but I can still struggle to join the dots because in my mind is already working. Wait, my mind is like fast forward 30 minutes or fast forward an hour from now. I'm already thinking on what I should expect in an hour time. In the present moment, I will never be able to give my best. Does that make sense to you, Idil?
Yes, I understand that.
Yes. So people with anxiety, one of their main issue would be they have this connection, their thoughts and their action. So through CBT, we can help them understand these patterns of behavior, and then we can teach them how to manage these thoughts better and how to manage their emotions better. And things like desensitization therapy, exposure therapy. One very famous phobia we all have is visiting the dentist. That is something that most of us can relate to. It's as if going for a walk in a dinosaur park like that. We all have terrible anxiety when it comes to visiting a dentist. So techniques like desensitization can be used with regards to that phobia. Phobia of flying. We can have you calm down and then use imagination and desensitize that fear. Right? Next slide, please. Okay, before we go there, I've seen this interesting question. Hi, may I know how long will a person usually take to show commitment phobia when dating? Um, I as far as I've seen, it's most of the time you wouldn't know in the start. Some people they know, meaning people who are very aware of what they want, they will tell you in the start. I'm not looking for anything serious. Doesn't mean they have a commitment phobia. It just means that I really don't want a commitment now. But for some people, you will know that when you are dating, they are like head over heels. Like they chase you all the time, and provided the fact that these people are not dating many people in the same row, you will see them putting more effort. You will see them going out of their way for you. The moment you start developing emotions, that's when you start seeing them taking a step back. That's when they start getting slower, or they tell you things like, I don't want commitment, I don't want relationship. Then this person has commitment phobia. And if your next question, how can we handle this or how can we help them? I honestly think you can never help them. I don't, I think, I really think you can't get them out of their phobia. It is their choice. It is always their choice. They have to go in for a session or talk about and explore what is their fear. And then they need to somehow learn to trust and learn to love again, or whatever that has caused contributed to the fear. They have to learn. But in order for them to do that, they need to understand what is triggering the fear. It's never about the other person. So if you're a girl and you are in love with a boy with a commitment phobia, kindly do not personalize it, because it's never about you. It's not because you were not good enough, but it's their own insecurities and fear. So if you encounter one such person, I always suggest you take a step back, take some time to heal, and you have to let it go. How do you differentiate between overthinking, anxiety, and phobia? Overthinking is like a common symptom or a trait within people who have anxiety. Anxiety is normal emotion, like I mentioned earlier. It becomes a disorder when you have excessive amount of fear, and that can contribute to phobia. So phobia can be with regards to a certain object or a certain things or a certain person. That is a phobia. So they all overlap, but overthinking is basically a trait that many people with anxiety disorders tend to have. Okay, hopefully I answered your question, Irene. Okay, medications. This again something that I like to highlight. Many times people with anxiety, they like to quickly run and get anti-anxiety pills. For me, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't suggest medication unless you have really tried many different counseling sessions, you have walked in for sessions, and it's really not helping you, it's very high, or you just want to take it like once, that's it. Because kindly understand that when you take medication, it treats the symptoms. The root causes of what is causing anxiety or even depression is not treated. So that's why some people, they take medication, they stay in medication for very long time. The root here, how do you handle it is, if you catch yourself having anxiety or depression, please first reach out to a counselor. I'm not saying this because I'm a counselor. I'm saying this because always the root cause is you can only explore it when you talk about it. Whether it's coming from your childhood, whether it's coming from your past or your recent experience, what's your trigger? This deep exploration is something that counselors do. So once you explore, you will learn how to manage it better. When you don't know what is triggering you, you wouldn't know how to manage them. That is my take on medications. But if you still feel like it's too excessive, the counselor would usually refer you to a psychiatrist. That's what we do at Soul Mechanics. We refer our clients to psychiatrists if we think our client really needs medication. That means they have taken a few sessions and we think at this moment they need medication. So while on medication, I'm still helping them by providing them emotional support. All right. Okay. And that's us. So mechanics. Um, to our dear audiences, any of y'all would like to know more about, if you feel that whatever I speak, whatever I shared with y'all today resonates, and you believe you are one of those who can be having similar thoughts or similar, you feel like, yeah, I think I have anxiety. I think I would like to talk to someone. Or sometimes you don't even know. You can always come in for one session and just see. You can just talk to us. You can tell us your problem and say, you know what, I just want to try and see whether you want to pick up from there. All right. Our responses are pretty fast. We usually respond within 12 hours. You can drop us either an email or call us or text messages. Right. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay. And this month we have promotion. So one is 4 sessions for 500 ringgit. Usually talking about session fee. Most of the time, as gazetted by LKM, Tembaga Council of Malaysia, each session is 250. However, in soul mechanics, what we do is we use a sliding scale. So we have things like student packages, and we always come up with affordable packages in order to encourage people to reach out for help. So this month, our package is 3 individual session, and you can get one free session for about around 500 ringgit. And all this is applicable to new client. If you happen to be one of the client that you have seen me, or you have 6 sessions before, then this is not relevant to you, or existing client. March package, we also do one career test and one full session. Since most of y'all are students, I believe, sometimes you can be the verge of thinking, what do I do next? I am coming to graduate now. I'm completing my degree in psychology, I assume. I'm not sure what should I do next. We offer career test, and we offer one free session with that, just for RM 300 ringgit. Usually the career test itself is 250. And yeah, that's about our packages.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Devi, for your explanation about phobia and anxiety as a whole. Before we go to the Q&A session, I have a personal question. Miss Devi, from your experience, one of the common phobia that you have told before is no nomophobia, the
Yes.
fear of mm, no media, no mobile phone. But
Yeah.
what are the opposite, the scariest or the most bizarre phobia that you have encountered throughout your whole life experience? The most bizarre.
Um, Most bizarre, I would say selfie phobia, because it's something that people people don't usually see, and people don't usually understand. Fear of being pictured. Have you heard of that before?
Mm, Today, this is the first time I heard today specifically. Mm,
Specifically,
Yeah.
um the reason why I point out this phobia is because it used to be one of something that even I used to suffer from, not realizing I had that. It's a phobia where you fear seeing your own face. You fear seeing your own image being captured. Fear, like, I think I have a kind of, my teeth is a bit protruding and I don't want people to see. Or things like, I'm a bit plus size, I don't find myself attractive, someone is going to comment about that. Or um, anything, could be anything where you are not comfortable with the way you look. So because of that, you find it very distressing when people wants to take your picture, or even you have to pose for selfie. And this phobia, the reason why I point it out now is because we all have smartphones. It's not like back then, where if you want to take a picture you need camera, or you need some old Nokia phones where the camera is not as great. Now we all have smartphones, we all easily accessible to different types of phones, and with social medias like Instagram, it's almost expected that if you're attending a function, not necessarily function, sometimes it could be just a simple hangout with your friends, you're expected to pose for a picture. And you might or may encounter a friend that is not so much, that's not so into taking pictures. So this is something to consider about. Please don't go tell your friend, oh, you have photophobia. It's not like that, but be empathetic. So if a person chooses not to, instead of forcing and distressing them, let's be a bit more respectful and understand, oh, okay, that's what you feel. Maybe, when they're in person, one to one, try to engage in a conversation and see where this is coming from, instead of just, oh, come on, instead of forcing people, because we may not be able to understand the great amount of distress that we are putting them into, because they look fine outside but inside they can actually be, they can really experiencing a sense of distress, and sometimes that can lead on to fact that I don't want to come out again,
Mm,
you know yeah.
yes. Okay, I guess that answer my question. So now is the time for Q&A session. We have a question from Kenneth. Hi, Miss. What is your take on the usage of medical marijuana for anxiety or the general use of marijuana? Will Malaysia be open to marijuana usage in the future?
Okay. I am not. I would say that this is beyond my expertise because I don't prescribe medications, and I have not. I, due to privacy, I can't say much of this kind of cases that I've seen, but I can't speak about it from a medical perspective because I'm just a counselor, so I can't say much on the medical usage for anxiety. Would you say phobia cause every environment can fade after leaving that space?
Question from
Okay,
Rina.
right. Okay. Yeah, cost. Okay, so phobia will not see the trigger. It's always about the trigger. So if you have a phobia to a certain place, probably somewhere like you have height phobia. You can't go on places that are tall and high. That triggers a lot of anxiety. So every time you're there, you will experience that distress. And when you come out of that space, of course, you will feel better. But until you work on that phobia, it's going to be there. Until you work to overcome it, it's always going to be there. It's never going to fade like that. The thing is, your anxiety or the distress you experience when you're at that place fades when you move away from that place. That's why you don't want to go or you don't want to be there, because it's causing you great anxiety. The moment you step out, you feel better. So if does that phobia, does that distress fade? Yes, it fades, but the phobia can remain the same. So every time you go to the place, it reminds you, it triggers you again. Okay.
Okay, furthering to that, a question from Jasmine Wilson.
All right.
How how long should the symptom be persistent until we need to seek help from expertise?
Um. Okay. If let's say it's something like it's a very new thing, you try, maybe give yourself a break, and after 2 or 3 weeks later you try again. And if you feel that you experience similar symptoms even after you try a couple of times, then I would suggest you reach out to the expertise. But maybe you want to try, um, um I'm referring as in a sense that you have phobia. Let's say you saw something at a dark place and you develop a phobia, and after that you think that I don't want to see a counselor or a specialist immediately. You can try, maybe give yourself some space to heal first, to process it, and then try. But even after you trying a couple of times you can't, then I would suggest it's best to reach out, right?
Mm.
In terms of symptoms, like I explained earlier, kindly understand whether you are having normal anxiety or an anxiety disorder. Anxiety is very normal. We all have anxiety. So if you have an exam tomorrow morning And if you're not feeling anxious, it means you really don't care about the paper. You're going to sit for a paper. You're going to sit for your final year paper in an hour. And if you're feeling super calm, super relaxed, chillax, that means I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Are you prepared? Do you looking forward for any results? Well, most of the time you will have a bit of anxiety, so that's completely fine. But if your anxiety is really affecting your functioning, you can't function, you feel like you need to self-sabotage, then you got to reach out to a counselor.
Okay. A question from Sakina Safwan. How does genetic predisposition play a role in whether or not someone develop a phobia?
Okay, generally I would say this is about something like, if you tend to have parents who are, who tend to worry a bit more, or who tend to score higher on the spectrum of anxiety, then you may inherit similar tendency. So you tend to get that trait a bit more easier. But however, just because you have it genetically doesn't mean you will definitely be like them. From your environment, by active management skills, by actively learning, by being more aware, you'll be able to handle these things better. So you don't have to say, oh, my mom has it, so I also will have it. No, it's not like that. But that can be one of the causes. What is the youngest age that phobia can start to develop? Okay.
By
You
Mialai.
Mia, okay. Usually phobias tend to develop from childhood or teenage years. You tend to develop phobias from that age. I can't really pinpoint a very young age at this moment. But I've heard, because I've never had such clientele base, but I've heard things like, if you have seen like, Little Albert, psychology students, you all would have heard about Little Albert, right? The poor Little Albert. Okay, ideally, you remember, or you're like,
Oh.
okay, did I okay, sort of, sort of. Okay, yeah. So if you see him, right, he actually, if you read the case, he developed phobia as a toddler. He generalized that fear, so it could be like super young, from months, depending on what you expose them to white objects, depending on what you're exposed to. So I can't specifically say a young age, but it's very possible, since childhood, and even as a toddler, just like
Since,
how little Albert developed a phobia.
mm, so is there any more question from the YouTube and Facebook live viewers? I'm guessing that's the end of our Q&A session. Okay, to end this webinar, I, Aidil Haris bin Ahmad Nizam, on behalf of the psychology classes, abnormal psychology classes, School of American Degree Program, and Segi College Kuala Lumpur, we would like to thank you, Miss Devi Venashini Murugas, for your time and support to create this awareness about phobia. I hope this webinar can go a long way to help people who suffer from phobia. Thank you, Miss. Do you have
Thank you.
any?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Ideal. Thank you, Sagi College, for having me today. I truly appreciate the effort from the students to prepare for this webinar in order to create the awareness. That means a lot, especially these days where many people are having anxiety, and they are developing phobias and they're not aware. So we need to have these kind of these kind of webinars, so that people can get enlightened and they know that there are avenues that they could reach out to seek help. So I truly appreciate this effort.
Okay, for the viewers out there, there's a feedback form given by Segi College Kuala Lumpur official. You guys can go and fulfill it to help so our feedback, our interactive between the viewer and the moderator aside. Thank you, Miss Devi, for joining us, and that's all for today's webinar. Thank you, everyone and viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you. We closing in.